To you who were wise at that time, I prostrate. Completely pure body, supremely fine floor, ocean of wisdom like a golden mountain, fame that places in the three worlds, supreme protector, to you I prostrate. Endowed with the supreme marks, a face like the stainless moon, a color like gold, to you I pay homage. The three worlds are not like you, who is free from dust. Matchless one, endowed with knowledge, to you I prostrate. Protector, endowed with great compassion, omniscient teacher, field of ocean-like merits and good qualities, to the dust god I prostrate. Through purity, free from attachment, through virtue, releases from the evil-bound realms, unique, supreme, ultimate meaning, to the Dharma that brings peace, I prostrate. From freedom, teaching the path, well abiding in the pure trainings, holy field, endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha also I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action. Accumulate virtue and goodness. Subdue your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Like a star, a mirage, a lamp. Illusions, drops of dew, bubbles, streams, lightnings, and clouds. Look at all conditioned phenomena as such. Due to this merit, having attained the state of the all-seeing, and thereby subduing the enemy of faults, may I liberate migrators from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Refuge. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. For immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the joyful happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from holding some close and others distant. Prayer of the Seven Limbs. Respectfully, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time and rejoice in the virtuous actions of all ordinary and noble beings. Please, Buddha, remain as our guide and turn the wheel of Dharma until samsara ends. Through the merit created by myself and others, may the two bodhicittas ripen, and may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Short mandala offering. This offering I make of a precious jeweled mandala, together with the other pure offerings and wealth, and the virtues we have collected throughout the three times with our body, speech, and mind. O my masters, my yidams, and the three precious jewels, I offer all to you with unwavering faith. Accepting these out of your boundless compassion, please send forth waves of your blessings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyar Yomi. The Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on Massive Lotus Mountain on Rajagiri, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how can any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on, and up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, and up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, succession, and path, and there is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata gate gate paragate parasumgate bodhi soha. And then I'll say that 21 times, and we all will. Tayata gate gate paragate parasumgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the bodhisattva and Mahasatva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the bodhisattva, Mahasatva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra the bodhisattva, mahasattva, arya, alokashara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavad.
Okay, so as you guys have noticed, I turned on the recording. I failed to do that earlier, so you are now warned that the recording is on. Wow, we have a lot of people coming in right now. So Doug is our speaker today, and I'm going to pass it off to him.
Okay, thank you, Connor. This is the first time I'm doing this, so please bear with me. My name is Doug Kleinsmith, and I'm a student at Lama Jinpa. It's easier to interact with a live audience since the speaker can see everyone. I can sort of see people, but they're two-dimensional. I was listening to a podcast between the actor Alan Alda and a woman who's a researcher on emotions. They both said that when talking to an audience, they lower their lights on themselves and increase the lighting in the audience so there can be more interaction between the two. And also less people will doze off. He quoted another actor who said, when asked about the capacity of the theater sleeps 600. So feel free to provide feedback any way you can so I know that you're still out there. This talk is based on a darshan that I had with Lama Jinpa, his talk previously last month on love and justice, and my own experiences. Love and justice seems to be a popular topic around here. Besides Lama's talk, a Sangha member, Jack, also gave a talk on Buddhism and social justice last August. So I'll first start by defining justice and love. What is justice? Justice has to do with fairness, individual rights, equal distribution of resources. And I found a video that defines what justice is. And hope. And here's the video. We haven't done this before, so.
Doug, I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, yeah, Connor's doing this.
Oh.
Justice. Justice for many.
Could you guys hear that?
It stopped.
Okay, but could you hear it?
Yeah, I could hear it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, at first. Yeah.
Justice. Justice, for many people, refers to fairness. But while justice is important to almost everyone, it means different things to different groups. For instance, social justice is the notion that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social opportunities, irrespective of race, gender, or religion. Distributive justice refers to the equitable allocation of assets in society. Environmental justice is the fair treatment of all people with regard to environmental burdens and benefits. Restorative or corrective justice seeks to make whole those who have suffered unfairly. Retributive justice seeks to punish wrongdoers objectively and proportionately. And procedural justice refers to implementing legal decisions in accordance with fair and unbiased processes. Justice is one of the most important moral values in the spheres of law and politics. Legal and political systems that maintain law and order are desirable, but they cannot accomplish either unless they also achieve justice.
Okay. Thank you, Connor. I tried to find a video defining love, but it's kind of hard. It's harder to define On one hand, love is the quality of the feeling when we are experiencing our true nature. It is also bodhicitta, which means noble or awakened heart, and has a quality expanding out to all beings as part of us, wishing the best for them. Talking about love and justice is easy, but in practice, the ego gets in the way. As Lama said, children are clear about love and justice. Why don't we all just get along? The combination of love and justice is bodhicitta work, skillful means. We should also be giving ourselves justice. Lama's famous saying is, don't give more than 49%. We are not sacrificing ourselves by burning out when helping others. We want to do justice for ourselves also. Lama has talked about us being professional bodhisattvas, to do the actual work with people with a motivation to relieve suffering. We need skills to be able to do this. Buddhists usually don't talk about justice as much as skillful means, but justice is skillful. It's value-based, skillful means. It's based on the golden rule. Treat others as you would want others to be treated. Think about others, talk about them, talk to them, and act toward them as you would wish that they would do that for yourself. I find this to be pretty hard work, but I do find a relief when I do have an attitude of respect for other people. It's like the tormenting fires are cooled, which is a line from our Medicine Buddha Sutra ritual. The tormenting fires are cooled. I say that a lot. It's nice to say, be nice to everybody. Love everyone. Practice the Brahma Viharas, which is loving kindness, compassion, immeasurable joy, and equanimity. But to translate that into action, that is really the justice part. Here's another example from Lama. His mother had this policy: whoever cuts the pie cannot have the first piece. If the first piece goes to the non-cutter, then the cutter makes each piece the same. Training in nonviolent communication is definitely skillful means, uniting love and justice. Jack gave 2 talks related to this last January and February. This reverses our ego's normal inclinations to either attack, run away, or just not care. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said we should lean into the sharp points, which means do what is uncomfortable, like not avoiding someone walking down the street. From this aspect, then, speaking out against injustice, rather than doing nothing and yet not attacking, can be leaning into the sharp points. Also, stereotypes, I found stereotypes have broken down when I actually do the work with groups of people I have a certain negative view toward. I have done a lot of serving food to the poor and homeless, and most of my stereotypes have been broken down when I actually work with them. Most are nice and not aggressive when they are in a safe place. The same can be said with most of us also when we're in a safe place. A lot of issues are now coming up in this country about social change and justice. It's like in the 1960s, but the sides are more delineated. Lama said he has an aversion to using hate as a way to get to justice, but he understands that people are oppressed and damaged, how angry they are coming from a place of hurt. I can relate to how I feel when I've been hurt, but I can't say to people with severe trauma, I know exactly how you feel. It just doesn't work. Here's a story from the Buddha that you've probably all heard. There's several versions of this. In this particular version, I found it goes like this. While the Buddha was delivering a speech, a man thought Buddha was a fake teacher and stood up and started shouting in a very rude manner and insulting him. The followers of Buddha tried to overpower that man, but Buddha stopped them and said, "It is not always necessary to counter aggression with aggression." Then he turned to the young man with a smile and asked, Tell me, if you buy a gift for someone and that person does not take it, to whom does the gift belong? The young man was surprised to be asked such a strange question and answered, "It would belong to me because I bought the gift." Buddha said, "That is correct. And it is exactly the same as your anger. If you become angry with me and I do not feel insulted, then the anger falls back on you. You are then the only one who becomes unhappy, not me. All you have done is hurt yourself." The man understood the message and he felt embarrassed. Many years ago at work, I had a coworker who used to tell offensive jokes about certain groups of people. I used to sort of laugh, feel a little embarrassed, and just leave. But one day, after he said an unpleasant joke about a certain group of people, I did not react, but my mind spontaneously became quiet, and I just stared at him. He suddenly looked uncomfortable, went away, and he never said anything like that to me again. On the other hand, here is a non-skillful means about justice. I have gotten to be a very self-righteous place by disliking and wanting to set people straight who hate people, who in turn hate other groups of people. In other words, I am prejudiced against people who are prejudiced against people who are prejudiced. This gets kind of complicated. With this attitude, I'm just puffing myself up and putting everyone else down. Pretty soon, I want to set everyone in the world straight, as if I'm the only one who knows everything. Obviously not true. And then there's the Buddha's famous statement about hatred. Hatred is never conquered or appeased by hatred in this world. Only love conquers hatred. This is the eternal law. There's a lot of different versions of this, but they all are somewhat similar. Essentially, everything you say, think, and do has a corresponding reaction. Whenever I've spoken out of anger, it always inflamed the other person worse, and it could have had karmic consequences for both of us in the future. When helping out, serving, or working for social justice, everyone has a different motivation. Whether to act out of hatred or love depends on your motivation. Does it come from the heart, or does it come from the ego? A long time ago, really a long time ago, I read a true story about some people watching a news story on student protests in the 1960s at the University of California at Berkeley. The student leader happened to be of Italian ancestry. The people who were watching the show said, if you turn off the volume and just look at the person talking, the leader looks and acts like Benito Mussolini, who was the dictator of Italy during World War II. This impressed me deeply. I really felt I would have a hard time following any leaders who are clearly acting from ego and not, at least partially, from the heart. Once in Detroit, again a long time ago, some college friends were going to a large demonstration. Before I decided to go or not to go, I happened to see the leaders of this demonstration on TV, and their arrogance and anger made me feel uncomfortable. It didn't seem right for me to go, so I didn't go. Later, my friends told me that it was not very peaceful and that they were attacked. Marie recently mentioned that someone she knew said, approach the system with anger, but approach individuals with love. Most of us have some understanding that who we are has been molded through innumerable lifetimes, which have imprinted so much on our mind stream. If you go back far enough, many of us have been both just and unjust in different past lives. When you or someone else act or speak in an unjust manner, unjust, prejudiced way, who knows what causes and conditions have led to that? Pema Chodron wrote in her book, When Things Fall Apart, we can rightly say that the thinning of the ozone layer is a scientific fact. It's not simply an opinion. But if the way we work with trying not to further harm the ozone layer is to solidify our opinion against those we feel are at fault, then nothing changes. Negativity begets negativity. In other words, no matter how well documented or noble our cause is, it won't be helped by our feeling aggression toward the oppressors or those who are promoting the danger. Nothing will ever change through aggression. We are simply adding more aggression to the planet. On the other hand, here's a true story which I heard about the way the Paris Climate Change Agreement was approved. Christiana Figueres was the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which led to the Paris climate talks. She has credited Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh with having allowed her to have the strength, wisdom, and compassion needed to forge the Paris climate deal. He taught her to be centered within herself, to see the best possible outcome, and see the goodness in one another. The climate change conference was for a while just going nowhere because there were two opposing sides, the victims and the perpetrators. The victim side accused the other of causing global warming, which made the other side defensive. And nothing was happening. They weren't getting anywhere. What Christiana Figueres learned from Thich Nhat Hanh allowed her to get all sides to agree. She said, "It is a journey from blaming each other to actually collaborating. It is a journey from feeling completely paralyzed, helpless, exposed to the elements, to actually feeling empowered that we can do this." So that concludes my talk. In summary, I feel you cannot have justice without love and love without justice. Now, I don't know if there's any questions. I don't be able to answer them, but someone else probably can who knows more than I.
Thanks, Doug. This is Susan. You know, it's really, really a complicated, complex subject. I just listened to a episode of Hidden Brain where they were talking about moral righteousness and that whole subjective thing of right and wrong, and there's no in between. And so what you were talking about is really should give us a lot to think about so that we can recognize how much of it is subjective, right? And how much of it is, you know, where that's the ego part. So maybe, you know, I find that when my ego gets involved and I start feeling that self-righteousness, that's the time to really step back and take a look at, okay, so what's really going on here? You know, there's no love, there's no justice, there's just ego. So, yeah, thank you for the talk.
Sometimes when you see someone doing something you don't like, maybe there's a reason they have to do it that way. Maybe it's the only way to get through to someone. It's probably as complicated as parenting.
Hi, Doug. It's Dirk.
Hi, Dirk.
Well, I was expecting this to be a hotbed of discussion, so I was going to keep my mouth closed and listen. But since nobody's saying anything, Just want to say that I think you did a fantastic job of covering a difficult subject, and of course, it's one of the subjects that I have the biggest problems with. I've always been I'm the guy who you know, like in high school, everybody depended on to take care of the bullies for them. And so I kind of and I always managed to do it without actually hitting anyone. I've still never hit anyone in my life. But I also did subdue people with great anger at times. And I do to me there's also, you know, there's always, of course, there's the there's the conceptual. It's almost like there's the conceptual and the non-conceptual approach too, because on the one hand you can try to analyze everything, you know, and find out, you think you're going to come to a conclusion of what the best path of action is through analysis. Sometimes you just have to act. And I think the wrathful deities sometimes are a lesson in that. Or say, you know, a child. I'm not saying that I can do this, because I get mad. And sometimes I don't, though. Sometimes I actually can just do it without anger. Usually not. But, you know, if a child's about to touch a hot stove, or even, let's take a better case. A child's about to grabs a pot of boiling oil off the stove and is about to throw it onto another child. You have to intervene. You probably have to intervene forcefully. You probably have to intervene in a way that shows a great deal of anger to someone who's watching it. But you don't have to have anger when you do it. You know, the civil rights movement in the 60s could not have happened. I mean, okay, the Civil Rights Act could not have happened without people directly confronting people who were being violent to other people. And some of those who confronted died. Some of them did it with anyway. I think you did a great job of covering it, and I don't think anybody's going to arrive at any answer today. But thank you very much for bringing it all up and putting it forward.
You brought one thing up, is that it's important to know what to do in the moment because you can't really plan for things. So you can intellectually analyze what you want to do, but that's where meditation and mindfulness and living from a deeper level comes in. So you can have now access to the inner wisdom, which at a certain level knows what to do.
Hey, Doug. So thanks for the talk. This is actually really, I really appreciated this today. There's sort of that 4-day tribute to the Dalai Lama conference thing that's going on online. It's totally free. And I listened to one of the talks by Mark Epstein today, he's a psychiatrist, and he did a talk that's on Buddhist psychology and modern Western psychology. It just had some interesting parallels about, you know, how we take action and, you know, small traumas that come up throughout life, but also big traumas, and how that sort of the nurturing mother can help children learn how to express those, you know, being alone and find the language to express those traumas in a way that's actually loving, so that they don't become traumatic, and that doesn't have that imprint. But withholding that, you actually have trauma that's expressed and that can become problematic later in life. It was a great talk also. But at the end, he sort of got into this poem that was translated by Thurman, by a Mongolian monk who wrote it just after he had found enlightenment. And the last line that he sort of closed his talk with was, it's a joy to be hidden and a disaster not to be found. And that sort of resonates with your talk and sort of what you're saying of, you know, sometimes this anger that we have is, you know, we want to sort of express that in some way to people, especially in confrontational situations where, you know, you want to change something. And it's good not to express that sometimes, but sometimes it's terrible when you don't. So there's other consequences to not being a stop to something or not trying to make a change. And, you know, so just grab this, because I put it on my fridge, so I just grabbed it, because I think that's actually that sort of push-pull that we all have with love and justice, and how do we actually sort of craft that very narrow pathway sometimes that we find ourselves on. But thank you.
Yeah, I often cannot think of the right thing to say in certain situations. So in that case, the only thing that would come up would be just emotions. But and then sometimes you wish you had said something. It's a little late.
Hey, Doug, this is Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Sorry, I've got like a second delay, or a couple second delay because of my landline up here. Thank you so much for your talk. This is definitely this has been the push and pull of my life since engaging with Buddhism a couple years ago, is, you know, finding that, what Connor was describing, that very kind of narrow way through these, what feel like these kind of canyon walls to me, of Buddhism, and then like radical left thinking, which is kind of where I started from. And I've found myself being kind of, I'm like this river going in between the canyon walls of, you know, trying to find my path to a way to responding to situations and to conflict and to social justice issues in a way that feels both ethical and timely too, because there is that element of, you know, for climate change, you know, being this just incomprehensible challenge where, you know, we're coming to a point of no return, and we're there. And then also with the movement for Black Lives, where, you know, people are going to continue to die at the hands of the police. And so there's these very timely issues that need to have a direct and rapid response. And then at the same time, there's kind of the slower, more kind of long-term response too. That's how are we developing relationships and developing community. And so I see these types of things, these types of responses in different time frames as, I guess, just kind of two sides of the same coin. And both of them, like what Dirk was saying, really need to come from that place of love. And as much as possible, when we're responding, not giving into anger, but sometimes requiring force in order to do it in a way that's timely to prevent further damage and harm that just seems to, it's going to continue to happen. So it's just this very complex and yeah, just such a challenging thing. And I'm so glad that we're talking about it, because it's, yeah, I'm always racking my brain around this. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation.
Thank you. It is difficult.
This is Dell. Hi, Doug. Thank you.
Hi,
for
Del.
that. Thank you for that talk. That was really great, and I really appreciated what you had to say and the video, and it was just really good. Thank you for your time and doing that. And I just wanted to say that When I was younger, it seemed so easy. Everything was right or wrong, you know, or at least it had more of a quality of right and wrong. And now what I'm seeing, and I especially had a terrible time with some of the propositions, because some of the issues are so complicated. And even if we do everything we can to think, okay, what would be the best thing that I could vote on this? We don't know what's going on. I mean, we don't especially know what's going to happen in the future. We don't even have all the information about the past. So we're kind of making these decisions really blindly. At least that's how I feel about it. And that's why I think, as other people have said today, that it's so important to go with your intuition. Because I think our intuition is more in touch with the future and all of these kinds of things. So that can be maybe a way to just, I feel this would be the right thing, and not even feel, but just a deeper sense of that. One of the things too I wanted to say in terms of social justice, technology really makes a huge difference. And I don't know whether people usually think about that as being a huge factor, but I know I firmly believe that the resurgence of feminism and women's rights in the late 60s came about because of the birth control pill. Because women could say, no, I am not going to get pregnant, and you can't refuse to promote me because I'm a woman and I'm married, or whatever. All of the reasons they use to keep women from positions of power and out of the workplace and all sorts of stuff. And I think the technology is especially relevant now because everybody has cell phones and they can take videos of what's going on. And we have a record of all of these atrocities that we're seeing. Whereas before, you didn't have that. You were lucky if you had somebody's word. But now there's just a ton of people everywhere taking videos of everything. And I think in a sense, it's one of the reasons, the fact that everybody's getting COVID and in people, especially in people of color, and that the unemployment levels are so high, and people are very, very frightened and very angry, and that's part of it too. But I think the technology is what gives it kind of credence, and how the numbers grow, because people see it and then they go, oh my God, I had no idea, So anyway, that was just what I wanted to say. Thank you again for giving such a wonderful talk, Doug.
Thank you, Del.
Doug, I think there might have been a comment or two. Do you want me to read those?
Was that in the chats?
Yeah.
Let's see. Just one. Were you going to read it?
How about you do it?
Okay, this is from Hillary Walker. She said, such a good point about the need to set people straight. I struggle with that need on Facebook all the time. Oh yeah, Facebook and social media makes these things even worse because it's so easy to make these little comments back and forth without having to actually face somebody. It's funny it's called Facebook.
I was thinking about that with road rage too, where it's like, it's so easy to get mad at someone when you're like in the safety of your huge vehicle. And it's the same thing with social media. Like when you're behind a screen, you can like be really petty and awful to someone. But if you actually saw them in front of you, you would never speak to them like that.
Right. So we had two aspects of technology. One thing, it's good for recording things that are happening, and the other part is the social media aspect of it.
You know, I wonder if anybody wants to make a comment, or Doug, if you want to make a comment about the influence of the teachings that we read and the teachings that we hear and the path that we follow on finding that pathway between the walls of love and the wall of justice, and trying to find that middle way, right? I mean, isn't that's kind of what this is all about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so much that can be said about that, about when you see someone, it's not who they really are. It's just who they really are, something completely different from that. And we're all the same, and we're all going through the same process. Okay. Okay, so someone just said, can anyone help me understand how to translate this to self-love and justice?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't help, but I'm just thinking that that's where it starts, right? I mean, isn't that part of what that's part of what I think I've learned, is that self-compassion, self-love, self-justice, self-compassion is where it's got to start.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really even translating it, it's starting it there.
Doug, do you mind if I present the 4 measurables?
Sure.
You mentioned in your talk?
Regarding the self-love, the question, you know, I'm somebody who has historically been really mean to myself. I mean, I would never talk to anyone. There's no one that I would ever be as mean to as I've been to myself, ever. And just when that question came up, I thought about, well, there are practices that we do where you imagine yourself in front of you, and if you imagine that, in a sense, that's imagining yourself as another person, which, you know, really we basically are anyway. We aren't. I mean, this concept of ourselves is pretty distorted to begin with. So if you think of yourself, think of how you treat other people and think of how you treat yourself, and examine that. It might be fruitful. I don't know, but anyway, that's my 2 cents.
That's another aspect of the golden rule.
I sort of want to put these up because, you know, I mean, we say this prayer all the time, but, you know, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. You are part of all sentient beings, right? So, you know, you can actually separate this out. May I have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So you can go through that with all of these. May all sentient beings. It's just not that explicit in this version of just may all sentient beings, but you have to realize that you are a sentient being. So by saying this, you're praying for yourself and for all sentient beings other than yourself, but also yourself. So sometimes pointing that out to yourself is actually really helpful, that this is actually a prayer for yourself, not just everyone else or everything else. So that's really why I wanted to put that up there.
Well, that's great. And quite thought about that.
There's a couple of practices too that you can do in this regard. This is Dale speaking. One of them comes from Thich Nhat Hanh in Plum Village, where you just set a bell to ring every so often. And you can do it like every hour, just set your alarm on your phone or whatever. And just take a few moments to relax and to be present in your body when the bell rings, and just think about what good things there are in the world and also in yourself that you appreciate in yourself. And then another thing, which is really different than that, is somebody was talking about, I think it was Dirk who said, think of yourself as another person or whatever. Anyway, and you imagine this other person that is so, self-hating and so mean or whatever, however you feel is your worst self, project it out there and then ask it to talk to you. What are you upset about? And tell me what's going on and why are you frightened and why are you angry? What are you worried about? All of these things. And then you go back, and you can even like sit in two chairs and move across and be your child, your most frightened, your worst self, and then come back and try to be your good self, your mother self, the nurturing mother, and say, explain, especially for people who maybe had a hard childhood, or they didn't get to say what they wanted or what they needed. And, you can say things like, it's okay to talk now. It's okay to say what you need. I'm here. I'm your mother. I'll take care of you. I want you to do that. I will listen to you do that. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. And then you can go back and you can do that back and forth. And eventually, you can say something like, what do you need from me? What do you want from me as the one who can help you heal these wounds? What do you want? And, it's a very interesting process, and you can do it over and over. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because that was a couple of things that I have done or do all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are some great ideas.
Do you maybe have some closing words, Doug, or any last comments from people, or do you want to just go into prayers?
I don't. That's been really nice discussion.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doug. I'm going to go ahead and put up the dedication. Dill, will you do the dedication for us?
I hope so. I've had to go onto my phone because I lost the network on my laptop. So if you put it up, I'll try to bring it up so I can read it, and then I'll be happy to do so.
Okay.
We'll just try it and see how it works on the phone, okay? Okay, let's see. Okay. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrei Sig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Okay. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Alukashara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losang Dagpa, I make request at your holy feet.
Great.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Just a reminder, you guys, there are several different fundraising opportunities going on. You guys can see the Roar that's went out this past week. We got Run to Feed the Hungry. We've got General Fund. We have some technology stuff that's going on within the General Fund that would be great. And then there's also a fundraiser that's going on through GoFundMe for Geshe Losang and the Nagari Institute. So those are some great opportunities to help out during this time as well. I know it's also political fundraising time, so you know, I know you're getting bombarded with those things, but anything can help out. So that'd be great, greatly appreciated. I don't know if there's any other announcements from people. No? All right. Well, hope to see it practices this week, and see you soon.
Thank you, Connor. Bye.
Bye.